Again. Hello and welcome to Geeks Assembled. And today we are talking a film version of 1920s, 1930s comic strip, The Phantom. This is starring Billy Zane as the title character, The Phantom. It, shall we say, it was sort of a flop at the cinema. Some people like it, some people hate it. Let's see what these guys think. We will go to Beef Dad first. What's your opening thoughts on this movie, Beef Dad?
I quite enjoyed it. I like Billy Zane. He's good. I always remember Billy Zane in a television series, the with the witches. He was brilliant in that. What's he called? What's the one called? Charmed. That's it. He was brilliant in that.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I really loved it. It's a it's a good action film. But the thing is, the action isn't just the blokes. Christy Swanson playing Diana Palmer, and then you had Catherine Zeta-Jones playing Sala, and the two of them, the fight sequences that the two of them did were absolutely brilliant. And what got me was a very, very brief appearance of Diana's mother, who turned out it was Samantha Eggar. And I looked, I thought, I know that face. And I love Patrick McGowan as the ghost of his father. I think it's brilliant the way the ghost of the father keeps turning up, especially in the back of the taxi. He's chatting away to him in the back of the taxi, and the poor taxi driver who's driving, he said, "Are you talking to me?" It was just so funny. But yeah, the effects. I like the effects. I love the effects with the skulls. I just thought that was so good, where he puts the two skulls together and they pinpoint a point on the map where the third skull is. And it turns out at the end that he has had the controlling skull for the three all the way along. And it was the ring that the Phantom wears. And yeah, it was just so good. Yeah, I can't understand why it didn't do better at the box office, because I found it quite enjoyable. I mean, yeah, all right, it wasn't possibly not the most brilliant superhero film, but I think it was just very, very cleverly written. I enjoyed it a great deal, and I loved the bits with the seaplanes. They were just so good, and the scenery, the locations were amazing, absolutely amazing, and totally believable. Loved it.
Thank you, Beef Dad. Yeah, I totally agree with what you said there. We will move on to Harry. We haven't seen Harry for a while. Hello, Harry.
Hello, Lee. It's been a while. My view on the Phantom is I've always enjoyed the Phantom by reading it in the Sunday morning strips in the newspapers. That's how I got to know the Phantom. Got to know it somewhat from reading it in the weekday strips as well. That's the big problem they have with the Phantom. People knew it from the comic strips in the newspapers. They didn't have a comic book to draw upon to get the audience in. That was unfortunately the big failure of the movie. The movie was a well-done movie. I thought it was well done. I enjoyed it tremendously, but with no real comic book to draw upon to get the audience, it's basically, you didn't know the movie. You either had to hear it from word of mouth from somebody, or you just a plain old-fashioned action fan to go see it. And that was the problem. You had no background with the Phantom in this movie. You only had the father. You had no background to draw upon for Kit Walker or any of his descendants, his previous ancestors to work with. The whole history of the Phantom, going back to just before the Middle Ages, but the Walker family having been shipwrecked in Africa, the idea of the vengeance against pirates, no matter what form they took, Walkers having at times come out of Africa, spending time in the world to get to know things. Basically, no background given. So unless you knew what you're talking about, you're just up a creek with this movie. That, to me, was the big drawback. No background, no comic book to draw upon. Well, it was a good movie. It just did not have, as I said, just didn't have the stuff to draw upon to get people really interested. That was the downfall of the movie, for me.
Yeah, I can see where you come from there, Harry. This was this was the sort of first big movie for the Phantom, and before it just sort of appeared from nowhere. I knew the Phantom from comic strips, but if you were a moviegoer, you wouldn't know as you say, know the background of this character. I can see where you come from there. Stephen, what was your take on this?
Well, I was watching it today. Started off all right, and I got bored. In the end, I hated the movie. I had to turn it off. It was not my... I don't like Catherine Zeta-Jones. Every movie she's been in has been absolutely dreadful. I don't rate her as an actress at all. Sorry, I hated the movie.
Every opinion is accepted and accounted for here. We'll just have Stephen Price humdrum and quartered after the cast. We will go now to Susan and Alex.
Yeah, so first time I saw this movie ever. Love Billy Zane in it. He did a great job. Didn't realize it was such an old comic strip. Can you hear me? Okay. It was such an old comic strip or comic book or whatever from the 30s. That's before the Golden Age. I mean, that's an old comic. That's really an old story. And I was pretty amazed by that. And there was lots of history that they weren't able to touch, but they did reference it kind of, and then they made it like I really enjoyed the way that they involved the ladies in the adventure, and then they had a lot of there was a lot the fight scenes were great, and because the property was owned by Marvel and DC, he could be added to anything. Here we go. Here's Alex.
Well, of course, that depends on the copyright and the license and all that. I mean, The Shadow, which is another movie that I confused it with, even though it doesn't have as good a cast, even though that was a more famous movie. They both sort of work on each other. I mean, they're kind of similar characters in a way. The Shadow and the Phantom. I know we're talking about the Phantom. Billy Zane was in Charmed. He's a good B-movie actor. It does remind one a little bit of Indiana Jones at the beginning. It is kind of funny how low-key he actually is. And then, of course, the villain is over the top. What was it, Xander Drax? And then you have Catherine Zeta-Jones, who I like her as an actress, but yeah, she's not very consistent. But, I mean, they probably just wanted to do a little bit of a romp. They probably wanted a simple story. Probably didn't want to alienate the audience like they did with The Shadow. And it's tough. It's tough to try to compare the quote unquote superheroes, Zorro, the Shadow, the Phantom, with the 70s when it was on TV, and now everything is a movie. Everything is a $20 million superhero movie. So, considering that this was made in 96, where they didn't have $30 million to do it, it's also a little bit of a shame that they only made back half their money. But like I said, these were the days where not every superhero movie was made, not every single character was covered. And of course, they didn't do an origin story, so you have to give them credit. They didn't do the same thing they do with the Hulk and Spider-Man and Batman 500 times in a row with an origin story. So I think that might have been part of the alienation of the audience. And then the fact that they're introducing, 500 characters and you don't really get a chance to, grow with them. So I think that was the other fault of the movie. But I mean, again, most people want to see a movie just to shut their mind off. And is it pretty? And is it good acting? And is it fast? They probably don't want to really, think about the characters or anything like that. The Phantom, I knew about it from a long time ago. I haven't really refreshed my memory. I was more of a Shadow fan myself, and that's why I didn't like that movie too much. I am a fan of the superheroes, but of course, they're stealing from Greek mythology and all the other mythologies. But that's fine, it's fiction. And like I said, the movie could have been much worse. The budget could have been much worse. The acting could have been amazingly worse. It was kind of funny. Xander Drax was reminding me a little bit of a James Bond villain from the 1980s, a little bit. So if they could have had more technology, he would have reminded me more of, of the last Roger Moore James Bond movies. But like I said, it's an enjoyable movie. It could have probably lost 10 minutes in the editing. But as I said, they did do something with the women, and they were fighting too. And then you had the other, what was it, that famous Asian guy with the huge Fu Manchu. And he's been around forever as well. I mean, he's been in almost every movie, almost every TV show. I forgot his name now. I think it's Gary something. Yeah. So
Hiroku Tagawa.
there you go. So, I mean, again, it did have a good cast. I would have tweaked the movie a little bit more and probably shaved 10 minutes off of it. But considering what they were trying to do, it's a good movie.
Well, as Alex said, it could have been a lot worse, and for me, it could have been a lot better as well. To be honest, it's it's one of those movies. I'm in the middle of this movie. To me, I think it's the story what drags it down. As Alex says, it's very reminiscent of Indiana Jones, but Indiana Jones was pilfering from the Saturday matinee hero things from the 1930s, and this was from the 1930s. So you get that sort of I've seen this all before sort of vibe. It's good, but it could have been better. It's just there in the middle for me. Billy Zane, yes, okay. He wasn't really given much to do in the movie. Wear a purple costume, fire a few guns, look good for the camera, take your top off. He just wasn't given enough to do. I agree. The women were empowering in this. Catherine Zeta-Jones and the other actress, whose name escapes me now. But as for the villain, I agree. Very Bondish villain played by Treat Williams. He could have been more villainous, to be honest. It was it was sort of it was sort of cartoonish, and yet this is from a cartoon strip. If you get what I mean, but it could have been more villainous for me. But it was an enjoyable movie, and for me, what made it was Patrick McGowan. His short appearances in this movie made it for me. I just love the actor of whatever he did. I mean, this was his, I would say, round about his fourth to final screen presence before he passed away. He when he appeared as Kit's father, as the was he a ghost or was he just the imagination? We don't. It wasn't really explained, so that's left unanswered. So yeah, it was an enjoyable movie, but it's got its flaws, shall I say? And I can understand why people didn't flock to the cinema to see it, but it is what it is. It's a paper-clad hero saving the day back in the boys' adventure tale, shall we say. So over to the rest of the gang now for the flaws and favourite things from the movie. We'll go to Harry. Did you like anything about the movie, or did you hate about the movie, Harry?
I didn't really hate it. I didn't really like it either. I thought it was enjoyable, but I'd say if there's one thing I would enjoy is the fact that they did try and get the time period right, but it just didn't have the full feel of what the character could have been. That was the main problem I had.
Yeah, I'm getting that as well. It was full of potential. It just didn't get there. Beef Dad.
What?
Exactly. What's yours? Man's a pan. What's yours?
Yeah, there was good bits and bad bits. I like the idea of the ghost who walks, and the fact that he had supposedly been killed umpteen times, which turned out to have been his father, grandfather, and their predecessors. He was the 21st successor to the role of the Phantom. So yeah, there was an awful lot of backstory there that they had to leave out of it, which was a shame. It might have been an idea if they'd at least done a little bit at the beginning on that. I absolutely loved the rope people. I thought they were brilliant. But there was an awful lot of time when he was galloping along on a horse, not necessarily his horse, but a horse, and being shot at. And that got a little bit tedious for me because that was repeated several times. Yeah, it's yeah. As I say, I love the scene where the two skulls were put together and pinpointed the third. I loved it when the three skulls went together on the volcanic island, and of course he had the fourth skull on his finger, which controlled the other three. So he was able to hold off the things that the skulls did, and eventually push it back, so that the entire island exploded. I mean, that was just brilliant. I like that. I also liked the little lad at the beginning who drove the lorry across the rope bridge. That was extraordinary. I've
got to agree with that, Beef Dad. That was a good character.
Yeah, that kid was really, really good. I liked that. Oddly enough, I had to watch it online. I did try to order it, but I suppose I'll put it down to old age. But I ordered the Phantom. But this was recorded in 2011, I think. Or was it 2009? Can't remember.
Could be.
2009. And it's a 4-part mini-series of the Phantom with Ryan Carnes, Isabella Rossellini, and Cameron Goodman. So I'm quite looking forward to watching that and finding out if they gave a bit more of the backstory in the mini-series rather than going zonk, as it were, like they did with the film. But as I say, I like Billy Zane. Billy Zane, yeah, I've liked Billy Zane since I saw him playing what's it? Cupid, and he was brilliant in that. And yeah, as I say, it's not perfect, but it is good entertainment.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, Isabella Rossellini, whatever she does is good. So hopefully, it could be a good miniseries there. But you'll have to let me know
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Stephen Price, is it worth me asking you? Was there any good bits with Catherine Zeta-Jones in this movie?
No, there wasn't. The only thing good about the only one good thing about the movie was the scenery. That was it.
Very good location. But there again, Stephen, any location is better than rainy Swansea, isn't it? According to you.
Oh yeah. Correct there. Yeah. I give it 2 out of 10. Sorry.
Oh, scathing. We're not scoring yet, but we'll take your score into account. We'll move on to the last two on the sofa. Susan and Alex.
All right. I enjoyed the bit where he is where he's in the on the islands, and he's like in the he's like trying to fly the plane and stuff, and that was really amazing. The biplane, and then they both got out of the biplane, which is amazing too. I mean, there was a lot of really cool sort of special effects, normal special effects, not a bunch of CGI special effects, but practical effects, I think is what they call them. And I enjoyed the story of how he was going to defend people. He was just going to be there, just doing the right thing all the time. Anyway, and that was pretty amazing. And let's see, are we rating or no?
If you want to rate now, you can do. It's up to you.
Okay. I will give it a 7.5 out of 10. And I'm gonna do some more looking at Phantom stuff. It's really good, and it's really old. It's probably the oldest superhero story that I've ever heard about, and that's saying something. I mean, other than the mythology ones. And here's Alex.
Well, like I said, it does remind one of sort of the Shadow, the Rocketeer. I like the Rocketeer, even though that is a different movie. But it's the same time period. So I guess from possibly the 20s to the beginning of maybe 42. And I guess for some reason, to me, all these movies are a little similar: The Shadow, The Phantom, and The Rocketeer. But that's not to say that I don't like them. Like I said, the Phantom could have had a little bit more story, but they were trying to have a fun, enjoyable movie. Could have lost 10 minutes in terms of the chase scenes. But again, it could have been much, much worse. The characters, unfortunately, they were trying to be so busy between the hero and his jungle pals or his British pals and the villain that they sort of shortchanged everybody else, which wasn't fair. But like I said, it could have been much, much worse. They probably did what they could with the 10 million. I've heard people criticize The Rocketeer, and I thought that was a much better movie, and that had more special effects. The Shadow had good special effects as well. I just wasn't a fan of Alec Baldwin, and I thought they could have made the story a little better. But like I said, it's still good. It's still good. It could have been much worse. I'm trying to remember any superhero movie that I didn't like. The TV movies, because they had no budget, were a lot worse. Like the Captain America TV movies from the 70s. Oh my God!
Oh, we don't.
Nice try, but no. Yeah.
We don't talk. No, we don't talk about those.
Yeah. So, like I said, depending on which, and of course Zorro as well. So you had all these characters sort of in black or sort of in silver, and there's been tons of Zorro movies. But again, totally, that's a genre for another time. But the Phantom, I did like. It was slow starting. I thought it was an Indiana Jones ripoff at first, but they had to get started somewhere. They did introduce the villains. So I guess I'd have to give it an 8, sort of a reserved 8. And it also was helped by the cast. It also was helped by the scenery. It also was helped by the practical special effects. But I'd give the Rocketeer and Zorro much higher ratings. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, we may review the Rocketeer and the other movie later today. Before we go to asking scores from other people, I just want to know: do you guys think, in this day and age now? I mean, this was 1996, but do you think within the next 5-10 years, a remake of this Phantom franchise would work? Open mic, anybody?
I'd say sure.
Make it the Phantom. I think if they did it right. They set up a good backstory, explain the history and everything. You would get an audience that would come in, watch the movies, even watch a cable series on it. But I think if you got to do the backstory first, to get people interested, because otherwise you're going to run the same movie. No backstory, how are you going to get anybody interested?
True. That is true, Harry. Susan, what you were saying? Yep.
I was just Netflix it.
I'm wondering as well. I know I've heard on Facebook that they're trying to have a new treatment of the British Avengers, the same people that brought us the original Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And hopefully the remake is better, because the 90s version, the movie, was pretty mediocre. Even though that had Sean Connery as the villain, but somehow that wasn't edited or filmed correctly.
And Eddie Izzard.
Yeah, but Eddie Izzard was in it, and I like Ralph Fiennes, and I like, even though he's in James Bond now, and of course you had Uma Thurman as Peel. Which wasn't right.
Alex. Yeah. Alex, I liked the Avengers movie. I thought it was quite good, but there we go.
Well, but compared to the TV show, it wasn't as good.
It to me, it just looked. It just felt like an episode of the Avengers, to be honest. But there you go.
So the other question, Harry, is in this day and age where they want to have mostly female heroes, will the producers or the writers have to tread very carefully with the Avengers, Zorro, Sherlock Holmes, which in the new versions they've changed the character a little bit, they've modernized it. What else? Other fictional heroes which were usually male, and they've had to change the writing a little bit.
A female Phantom. In the history of the Phantom, there has been a descendant of the Phantom who was female who took on the role of the Phantom. So it's locked in. It's in the family history. There has been a daughter who took up the role. You don't have to worry about a woman stepping into the role of the Phantom because it's locked in the history.
Well, yeah. Now there's the other question that I've mentioned more than once. If people they claim they're so interested in female superheroes or female heroes, why aren't there more? I mean, look how long it took for even Wonder Woman to get remade. And as Harry said, if there's a female Phantom, absolutely. And there's female Time Lords, and there was almost 4 female characters from the Avengers. So why not have a movie for them? I mean, what's the big deal? Let's do it.
That is down to the film companies, I suppose. So without further ado, I mean, we've got the scores off Alex and Susan, haven't we? And Stephen. So is it Beef Dad and Harry now to score? Beef Dad, what would you score this one?
Well, with the things that weren't quite right and the things that were, I think I would probably give it an 8. Yes, an 8.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, the Shadow, I remember as a child listening to the Shadow on the radio.
On the radio, yes.
When I was littler, I always remember only the Shadow knows for sure.
And I think I have sent a YouTube link to certain people in our group with radio broadcasts, and I'm sure the Shadow is on some of those. And they are very good listening. I listen, and some of the horror stories as well. What are on there? Brilliant.
Yeah.
I digress. Harry, what would you score this out of 10?
I'd give it a 5. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. As I said, it was a good start, but they needed more explanation. They needed to give a bit more background and such into the character to really do the movie right. Now, they do, as I said, they want to do a remake of The Shadow of the Phantom. I'd have no problem watching it. Just to see if they can really get the background right and everything. And as far as The Shadow is concerned, I have only one thing to say, almighty Beef Dad. Who knows what evil lurks within the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Hey, who is that guy? Anyway, for me, I'm going to give it a 7. It is a flawed movie. I agree, but you can sit down and watch it from beginning to end. It's an action movie. I agree with what Harry says. I agree with what everybody says. Really, it just needed a little bit of extra oomph. To be honest, it's a 7. And on that note, I would like to thank Beef Dad for being here. Thank you, Beef Dad. I would like to thank the 2 love doves on the sofa of love, Alex and Susan. I would like to thank Mr. Stephen Price in his galoshes and Wellingtons from Wales. And I would like to thank Harry for being here. Long time no see, and hope to see you on many more, Harry. Wishing you well.
I'll be here for them.
Yeah, yes, and wishing you well and best of health. And please, if you're watching this, well, this, what do you call it? A cast, a podcast, a video, whatever you want to call it. Please, if you like it, give us a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give us a thumbs down. If you give us a thumbs down, that means you've watched it, so we still get a view. Hey ho! Please leave a comment below if you want to, if you would like to tell us about the movie The Phantom, what you liked, disliked, or if you liked the cast, if you liked the look of Beef Dad and said, wow, he's a fine, distinguished old English gentleman, leave a comment. Or just if you think, oh God, he's an old fart, please leave a comment. I'd love to read these comments because we don't get any, but we need some more comments. And also, please follow us on Twitter at Geeks Assembled. We're on Facebook. We've got a public Facebook group called Geeks Assembled. Just type it in there. And we've got a Tumblr. We're still trying to figure the Tumblr one out. We're like that. So please follow us and enjoy what we do, because we enjoy talking about these films, because geeks means we're enthusiastic about what we do, and I'm very enthusiastic. If you look at the members of this group here, they look so enthusiastic. Look at Beef Dad's face. Enthusiastic. Need I say more? And on that note, bye.